Welcome back, 7th graders. We're going to go through my expectations of notes. Most of you were with me last year, so you should remember. Start by opening to the first page in your notebook and draw a line going down. So just take your marker, or pencil I should say, about 2 to 3 fingers and just draw a line going straight down your paper. This is going to help us stay organized. On the top of the paper where there is no blue lines, I want you to write the word integers, nice and big. All right, so today is a review, adding and subtracting. So let's start with adding. When the signs are the same, you add and keep the sign. Remember, if I go too fast, just stop the video and then start it when you're ready. If the signs are different, you're going to subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. So let's look at some examples. So I want you to write all of this. Your notebook should look exactly like this right now. So let's look at a -4 plus a -3. Well, if I look at that's a -4 and a -3. They're both negatives. So signs are the same, so I add and get 7 and I keep the negative sign. So we're at a -7. In this case, 6 plus a -7, we have 6 and a -7. The signs are different, so I subtract, and I can go 7 minus 6 is 1, and the sign of the bigger number, well, 7's bigger, so it's a -1. So keep going right down your paper and let's write subtract. It's the same as adding. Again, now here's where you have the right if you want to abbreviate. If you don't feel like you need to write same sign, different sign again, you don't need to because you wrote same as adding. Otherwise, just remember the same signs you add and keep the sign. If they're different signs, you subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. So, the only difference now, if you have 2 negatives in a row, it turns to positive. So anytime you see a negative and a negative, you can just turn them both to positives, or some people like to just make it one big plus. So let's look at some examples. The first one, 6 minus 7. So I have a 6 and a -7 is how I want you to think of this. The signs are different. So if they're different signs, I would subtract. 6 minus 7 is 1, or 7 minus 6 is 1, and I keep the sign of the bigger number. So in this case, here's where you see 2 negatives in a row, so you turn it to a positive. Now I have a -4 and a +3. The signs are different, so I subtract and get a -1. Because the -4 is the bigger number. Now some students like to think of this as the same. I have to turn these, but they are not in a row. The -4, the 4 is in between the 2 negative signs. So it's a -4 and a -3. Because they're the same, I add 4 plus 3 is 7. I keep the signs and I get negative. Multiplying and dividing basically are the same thing. When the signs are the same, the answer is going to be positive. When the signs are different, the answer is going to be negative. One way to help you remember that is our integer man. And what you can do is cover him up with what was needed. For instance, if we look at our first example, this one you should just be able to do. It's positive, signs are the same, so my answer is positive because we know 6 times 7 is 42. In this case, the answers, they're both the same again, a negative and a negative, so my answer is positive. 4 times 3 is 12. If I need integer man, I just scribble out there's a negative for the 4, a negative for the 3, and what am I left with? I'm left with a positive number. Last one, you just divide. 16 divided by 4 is 4. I have a positive and a negative. So I'm left with a negative. Because the signs are different, it becomes negative. Your notebook should now look like this. Go back if you need to change anything or add anything or start over to get your notebook to look like mine. The expectation is that we are taking notes and that they all should look pretty close to the same. You can then start your assignment.